Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Suno Tonight with Saadia Afzaal. We are back with another episode of our series, Islam and the Modern World. The United States' greatest export is war, a tool that Washington used to keep other countries under its authority. The US is plagued by fears of waning power and influence that embraced the foreign and domestic wars. There has been an overemphasis on military force because the US has the strongest military on earth, and it is believed that it can achieve its international goals that diplomacy cannot achieve, or by military power, it can enforce a diplomatic solution. Washington considers that with its military supremacy, it can force surrender. And in the recent decades, we saw how wars were started in Iraq or Afghanistan to achieve political goals in the name of democracy. And nations were invaded and regimes were changed. The US policymakers and national security experts have this firm belief that its military might is the most powerful tool to achieve diplomatic goals. Recently, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken also stated that Washington would not engage in negotiations until the fighting stops in Ukraine and a similar approach in Gaza. But with military might, results may not be achieved at both war zones. Similarly, the US applied the same approach towards China and displaying its military might in South China Sea and empowering Taiwan with weapons, with a larger target to contain China and Chinese military power. But conflict is getting worse. Both sides are building their firepower. The economic impacts of wars are visible in the US, but Washington knows that it has no alternative than to show its military muscle. There is a moment after the 7th of October when reporters asked Secretary of Treasury Janet Yellen, can the US afford to support two wars, Ukraine and Israel? Her reply without any hesitation was absolutely. America is addicted to wars. Retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel and history professor in his article has mentioned that when I was in the US military, I learned, attributed to the Greek philosopher Plato, that only the dead have seen the end of the war. And there is no ending to the US wars. With America's unending wars, there is another view that looks rational as well. Neoconservatives, the likes of George Soros, and the military-industrial complex all profit from these conflicts, which is why the US so often stands against peace and ready to initiate new wars. The US's contribution stands at 42% of the total global arms exports, delivering arms to 107 countries, which is more than any other major exporter. Together with the US, Europe accounted for 72% of all arms export in 2019 to 2023, while Europe alone was responsible for 1/3 of global arms exports. Conflicts and wars mean more jobs, more revenue, and economic growth for the United States. The ongoing conflicts in Ukraine, the Middle East, security situation in South China Sea, and anywhere else are driving the defense spending. The US defense industry that largely faced its closure after the Cold War once again revived with these two conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East. Revived industrial units are now producing out-of-commission Tomahawk missiles, which had been rapidly expended on the airstrikes against the Yemen's Houthis in Red Sea, and some other weapons to track and target non-conventional forces. The Defense News Top 100 reported that the entire US defense sector has seen significant growth, outpacing other industries. The good times aren't likely to end soon either. The defense sector is growing at the rate not seen since the Cold War. Lockheed Martin is at the top of the list with $64.65 billion in defense revenue, and American firms remained the key takers of revenue share. In total, 6 Chinese and 6 British firms were in the top 100 firms. If we look into the facts that who are the biggest importers of American weapons, we can figure out that some of the 30% of the arm transfers went to the Middle East from 2019 to 2023, with the top 3 buyers in the region being Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Egypt. The majority of arm imports by Middle Eastern states were provided by the US, 52%, followed by France and Germany. The biggest importers of weapons during the period 2019 to 2023 remained India, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar, followed by Ukraine, which received huge transfers from all Western nations. But the era of American hegemony is coming to an end, and now the US is scrambling to maintain its power. But these are the most difficult times. Why? Because dying superpowers are more dangerous, and without any hesitation can start any new war for its survival. This is our topic of discussion today, and to discuss this, in Islamabad studio we have Dr. Amanullah Khan, who is an assistant professor at the Department of Strategic Studies, University, Islamabad, also a PhD in Peace and Conflict Studies. Thank you very much, Dr. Amanullah Khan, for joining us.
Thank you.
With you we have Dr. Abid Abbasi, who is a professor of Park Studies in Namal University and PhD in History. Also, he's a political analyst. Thank you very much, Dr. Abbasi, for joining us. And joining us from Karachi is Mufti Saad Khan, who is the director, iQuest. Thank you, Mufti Saad, for joining us. And as always, we have our audience here, which obviously comprise of university students, and they will also be given this opportunity to ask their questions. So I'll start with you, Dr. Abbasi. My question to you is that the risks or those extreme steps which the US is willing to take to regain its global position, investing heavily in the weapons, in defense, and not only that, also exporting it to the rest of the world. Is there any limit when it comes to US's ambitions to regain its position or to stabilize its declining hegemony?
Thank you very much, Saadia. It is always a pleasure to be in your show. Yes, you have given a very comprehensive intro in that you have shown tremendous figures and tremendous historical happenings regarding the US hegemonic position in the war economy. I would like to start with that US, not only US, but if we go back into the history, every hegemonic power having its hegemony driven from the war technology, from the war export, from the war business, if we see a historical perspective. And US, obviously, that is the biggest and the largest economy of the world, and their economy having a very notable and considerable share of the war technology. And I must say, not only war technology, but war as a business, because there are, after a declassification of the US secret papers and many research made by the historians and the experts of various other disciplines of knowledge, those research shows that the wars have been created artificially for some other objectives to achieve. Either these are economic objectives or the strategic objectives or getting control over comparatively, the bigger enemies of the United States or the. If we talk about the capitalism itself, the capitalism, imperialism is ruling the world for last, 5 or 6 decades after the debacle of the Russian or the decline of Russia, the Cold War era, we have seen that. But the economy is largely dependent upon the wars, the military hardwares, and creating wars for other objectives. For instance, the control over oil, the control over natural resources. If, according to any analysis about just in Central Asian states, which remained the part of United Soviet Socialist Republic before USSR, about 200 years American budget is lying beneath the surface of those virgin lands of Central Asia. Okay. Similarly, if we talk about Pakistan, the Balochistan is a land which is still a virgin land from natural resources point of view, with the exception of some oil digging or some gas, etc. Similarly, if we talk about the Middle East oil expanse, the oil reservoirs, those remain, blood in the vessels of the economy of the capitalist world. So capitalism means money. To acquire money, the free market economy, everything is considered, everything is seen in the prism of money. in the prism of hard money. So the resources have been captured through wars, and war became a biggest phenomena of the present world.
When we talk about US being the largest exporter of war, as you rightly mentioned, that it has always been about money, it has always been about economic growth. But Dr. Aman, we have seen that, okay, jobs were created in the US, more jobs, more opportunities, more growth of the economy. Their defense industry, which was really dying, it revived because of all that. But what about the importers of those wars, which US is trying to export? When we look at Muslim countries, 57 Muslim countries in the world, when we look at them being the importers, the biggest importers of US war, what do you have to say about that?
Well, ma'am Saadia, thank you so much for having me. I will start by saying that, United States is a powerful state, so powerful state. So the strategy of waging war is different for different regions, for different countries. So one of the strategy of the United States that it applies is to make states fight, to create a situation, to create a scenario where they feel insecure, and then they ask America to help them by giving them weapons.
Yeah, because
so,
they are not.
So if you do not need a weapon, then why would you purchase them?
Yeah.
So first condition is created for them, that they feel that they are insecure, and America is the only source of providing them the weapons. So if we look around in the world, in the larger picture, so we see that bloodshed, violent conflicts, destruction, human rights abuses, anarchy, uncertainty is prevailing. So who is responsible for all this? Of course, the most powerful state is responsible for all this, and it is America. So we are still living in a unipolar American dominated world, the Western world, and America is responsible. But one important point I would like to mention over here is that the wars, American wars in the world, American invasion, it is not benefiting American economy. It is not benefiting American state, United States as a state. It is rather benefiting very small portion of the society, the capitalists, the corporations, those who are into this business, those who are manufacturing these weapons. So this is why I used to say that American democracy is a capitalist democracy. So the capitalists are the oligarchs, are the billionaires, the super rich people in America. They are having greater say in American politics. They are controlling, are influencing American foreign policies. They are designing. This is why the former US President Trump once said that American security establishment, Pentagon, wants wars in the world. Why? Because they are making money.
But Mufti Saad, we have seen while this world, or modern world as we call it, is busy doing all this to sustain or stabilize its global position, or how to make other countries, especially Muslim countries, fight among each other, where are our own core values related to Islam? Why Muslim countries, 57 Muslim countries, have been unable to find a united front? We see those divisions in Muslim countries. We see that they are not even willing to sit on one table. There are a number of such countries. Where are we lacking?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Islam gives the concept of ummah.
Yeah.
We have divided this thing, all the ummah, in lands and something. So it is not like that. Islam gives the concept of ummah. Islam says, Holy Prophet ﷺ says, if the even one part of your body is damaged, whole your body will bear its consequences. I can't say that I am good, alhamdulillah, I am feeling good, but my eye is damaged, or I am saying that my hand is cut, but I am good. If I have a problem in a one body part, my whole body will bear its consequences. Similarly, if there is any problem in Gaza, if some Muslim is facing the problem in Palestine, if someone is facing problem in Syria, Burma, in any place in Muslim Ummah, if someone is facing any problem, whole Muslim community should bear its consequences. They should feel like that they are killing me like that. What happened actually, what the US have did, and what actually it is done by through the terminology, by capitalism, by communism, and by liberalism, and they have made all Islamic states, sorry to say, we are saying that we are living in the Islamic state, but this all states are not Islamic state, but these are all secular states. We are living in Islamic state, but with the secular mind state, statement. And we are saying that.
And these states, these Muslim countries, what you just mentioned, they are trying their level best to prove to the West that they are secular. They just want them to realize that they are secular states.
You are right.
When
you will see, my sister, when you will not stick to your core beliefs, when you will not stick to what the Islam actually says. See, the first word I said was that Islam gives the concept of Ummah. What do you mean by Ummah? Islam does not dispute you between these lands. I'm not Pakistani, I'm not Hindustani, I'm not Bangladeshi, I'm not Palestinian, I'm a Muslim. If the person is having difficulty in any, like the Iqbal says, ye sara jahan hamara hai. Allah Almighty have His whole land for me, this whole world is for me. Why I am combining, or why I am saying that I am just of this state, or I am responsible of, like for example, if you have problem having in Gaza, the people you will ask in Pakistan, a Muslim will say, what can I do? I am Pakistan. If there is a problem in Karachi, then I will face it. This is not the concept of Ummah. Even if we see the conquest of Makkah, the Holy Prophet ﷺ was living in Madina, but the Banu Khuzza tribe came and asked them that Banu Bakr has attacked us. The Holy Prophet ﷺ, to save Banu Khuzza, he attacked Madina and conquest. So for example, now what is the responsibility of Muslim Ummah? The responsibility of Muslim Ummah is they should come on one page. It is like the concept, the unity. Listen, the Quran was to unite the people, not to divide the people. We have divided ourselves in sects, in lands, in states, and in many. There are been conflicts. There are even conflicts in the home between the brothers. But that conflicts does not mean that we cannot sit together. And this does not mean that we cannot have any unity. So it is the right opportunity for all the Muslim states that they could sit together, and how they can be combined. So this is the real question what you have. So we have 87 countries. We all believe in Allah. We all believe in Quran. We all believe in everything. But what the thing is missing? The thing is missing, we have left the concept of the Holy Quran. What is the concept of the Holy Quran? We are just studying Holy Quran for the sawab. You have seen in the Pakistan, basically you are living in Pakistan, you will see when the person is died, you will ask them, oh bring Quran, and we will read. We are just reading the Arabic terminology of Quran. When the whole Ummah will understand what Allah Almighty actually have said them, what Allah Almighty have actually commanded them. So it is a responsibility of each member that they should understand Quran, and they should unite people according to the Quran. See, we cannot unite Muslim from one sect. We cannot say that you can unite Muslims only on one slogan. That slogan is back to Quran, back to Muhammad. When you will call all the Muslims on one page, and we will create our defense. You can, like you have the UNO charter, you should create Muslim charter. You can say that you cannot attack any Muslim. You can say that there should be no blasphemy. According to the Quran, all the terms and conditions should be given. And the only solution we have, that is the unity of Muslims.
Right, we are having a very interesting discussion in our studio here. When we come back from the break, I will take questions from the audience right after the short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching Suno Tonight with Saadia Afzaal. We'll open the floor for questions from the audience. First question for Dr. Abbasi.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ramiz from Namal, Islamabad, and my question is there any Cold War between US and the China? Because America is again deploying its maximum number of its nuclear aircraft carriers, which are their so-called floating cities against China in South China Sea again. And I want your opinion, critical and analytical opinion.
Right. Critical opinion, Dr. Abbasi.
Thank you very much. Yes, you rightly said that there is a war. We can call it a Cold War because there is no practical war between China and America. But if we see in the modern way, in the modern era, the definition of Cold War, that is a bit different from the classical Cold War era, which remained between United Soviet Socialist Republic and United States of America. At present, this war is largely derived by the economy. The economy is the biggest force, and the tactics which are being used, those are capturing the markets of the world for selling their products, and other global issues like we have earlier discussed a lot about the war technology and the war export and the war hardware. That is also being used for putting pressures on China. But you know that China is the largest growing economy in the world, the fastest growing economy in the world. They are capturing more land with every passing day. So the war is there, and we can call it a Cold War.
Right, so obviously the US is trying to do whatever it can to not only reinforce its position, but also to counter China and other rising powers. Yes, second question for Dr. Aman.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Muhammad Umair, studying BS Media Sciences from Namal University, Islamabad, and working as a journalist. My question is that does the US want to maintain the global dominance, and can the US achieve its goal without war or not?
Okay. Dr. Aman, can US achieve all its goals without wars?
Well, I think America has achieved, partially achieved, but in the long run, America is not achieving. As I said before, that American state is losing the war. American government is losing the war. America is on the loser side. China is winning. And in order to understand this, we need to understand the approaches of the two most powerful states. So China is saying that it wants a win-win situation. It wants a world where there is cooperation, and America is using hard power. So one state is relying on hard power, the other is mostly relying on soft power. So American image in the world is negative, and Chinese image in the world is positive. So in that sense, we may say that American dominance is under threatened. So on one side, it is said that everything is made in China except war. But on the other side, we see totally opposite. So American, some forces, some factors in America, in American politics, who are active, who are influential, and they are mostly the lobbies, the corporations. They are pushing American politicians and American state politics to go to war, to invade more and more. So this is the difference, that American state is losing.
Let's go for our question for Mufti Saad. Yes, please.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Masroor Ahmed. I am from Namal University. My question is that is there any possibility there could be a World War III, and why would the US is pushing the world towards wars?
World War III, Mufti Saad, would you like to respond to this? Because this regional war obviously has got all the potential to become a world war, what we are seeing now.
Actually, the person have asked me question according to the World War III, but in Pakistan, basically, we are found of from the Mufti of listening the speeches that according to the peace, according to the love, according to the affection. Remember, it is stated that whenever the war is needed, the Islam have given the clear statement that is jihad. We should do war. The Muslim should not afraid of being fighting or something when there is a purpose behind it, and there is a clear purpose. We are having it, like what the people are, the Israelis doing with the Palestine, which has happened in the Afghanistan, the thing which has happened in the Syria, in Burma. So all the things, and we have in our Islamic terminologies, Ghazwa-e-Hind, we have it that. So for this purpose, the Muslim should be ever ready. And I give you the concept, like the Islam have said, the Holy Prophet ﷺ has a clear hadith regarding this. The mu'min, a Muslim who is stronger is better than the Muslim who is weak. Similarly, the Muslim state which is stronger, that is appreciated by Allah Almighty, rather than the community or rather than the country which are weak. So according to me, whenever there is the need of any war, first, there should not be a war. But when there is a war, there is a consequences of war which we cannot neglect anything, then we should, and it is an English show, I know, but I will say like Sal Ludhianvi have said in Urdu, it is a shairi, that jang lazmi hai to phir jang hi sahi, na ye zar ki jang hai, na zameenon ki jang hai, ye jang hai baqa ke usulon ke waaste. जो खून हमने नजर किया है इस जमीन को, वो खून है हया के फूलों के वास्ते, फूटेगी सुबह हम लहू रंगी सही, अगर जंग लाजमी है तो फिर जंग ही सही. If the war is the conclusion of everything, then the Muslim should not be afraid of anything like that.
All right, we are having a very interesting discussion in our studio here. We'll go for a break, and when we come back from the break, we'll try to take more questions from the audience. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Suno Tonight with Saadia Afzaal, and this is our series Islam and the Modern World. We'll go back to the discussion, but first let's have some more questions. Yes, please. Your question.
My name is Sanzil Saib Zada, and I am from Bhar University, and I am studying media. Both the panelists basically mentioned that war is a business, but there should be a disparity between ethical business and unethical business. So if you think that we're gonna hold the US is responsible for all the wars, we should accept that we are an importer.
Excellent question. Importers of war, aren't they accomplices in a way?
Ethical and unethical, in capitalism there is no ethics at all, because their prime objective is to attain money, is to achieve money, and for that matter there is no ethics. The business ethics or the capitalist ethics are to attain money.
But what about the ethics of Muslim countries? Let me rephrase his question, because this is a very important point which he has raised. Yes, the US is doing this. US's defense industry is growing because of all this. Its arms and weapons, it's exporting it to the rest of the world. Muslim countries are buyers. 52% goes to the Middle East. So these weapons, again, as we were discussing earlier, US is an ally of Israel, the biggest ally. It supports that agenda of the Zionist state. So if Muslim countries are buying those weapons, so in one way or another, that makes us an accomplice in this war against Palestinians, not against Israel.
For morality, or if we talk about the conjunctions of Islam, you are true. But for the existence, if I can refer a book, the very famous book by the former Prime Minister of Pakistan, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, The Myth of Independence, because the smaller countries having no possibilities to be in conflict with the global powers. It can be an abstracted kind of, it can be a myth, but it cannot be a reality. No country of the world, if the Chinese are struggling for the last 5 decades to achieve a position to remain independent from the US hegemonic designs, global designs. What of Ukraine?
That means we are helpless, we cannot do anything then.
We have made an effort previously in 1974 when Zulfikar Ali Bhutto held a conference of Muslim, head of the states and head of the governments in Lahore, and that was the biggest gathering of the Muslim leaders ever. Neither before that nor after that such kind of, the prestigious conference of the Muslims could take. But what about what the later results come out of that conference? Majority of the leaders who were the Muslim nationalist leader, they were met a very ugly end in the hands of allegedly the United States. I can quote a quotation from Jamal Abdel Nasser, who was the Egyptian nationalist leader. Once he said that if there are 2 birds are fighting on the surface, 2 dogs are fighting on the planet, and 2 fishes are fighting in the sea, I have no doubt that behind this there is a design of the CIA.
Okay.
Or
so everything is by design then.
But the Muslim countries, they are so weak. We should accept this reality. Yeah. They are not having, earlier you said the OIC, that OIC remain OIC. That has not been functioning organization, that is a toothless, or having American designs or global imperialist designs in these countries. The leaders of these countries are not capable enough to resist the Americans.
Obviously when you analyze the situation,
they cannot resist the American system.
We are so smart, we are so wise, we know that it's all by design, we know that the US is behind all this, but still we become a part of it? So obviously that's the question.
We are helpless. Because
Helpless,
if we
okay.
talk,
I think
the leaders are
Mufti
removed,
Saad also wants to add to
the
this.
regimes are
Dr.
removed
Mano.
by the global capitalist system,
Yeah.
the regimes are installed by them, the leaders are murdered, they're killed, they're assassinated, everything is carried out by the global system. So
Okay.
our leaders, they do not have the popular support from their people, they do not have a united agenda, and above all their economies does not allow, do not
Right,
allow
both
them
of my
to
guests
resist
want to add
Americans.
to this. Dr. Aman, you first, and then I'll go to Saad.
Why Muslim world is not doing enough in order to resist against the Israel and American wars. It is just because we need to read a book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins.
Yeah.
So he identifies the strategy that how he was involved in convincing the leaders that if you play our game, we are with you, you will be ruling the state, but if you go against the
Otherwise
American
your
game, then
governments
you will be threatened, your
toppled, you
regime will be all over.
assassinated. Right,
Yeah.
Mufti Saad, go on please.
I will straight come to the question which my brother asked, was that ethical and unethical wars. So I want to just answer that thing. The false statement I have ever heard in my life is, and the worst pathetic statement is that when the person says that everything is fair in love and war. This is the most pathetic statement. Nothing is fair in love and war. There are some terms and conditions of war. And if my professors have mentioned that the capitalist approach is just to attain money and they does not have ethics related to the ethical and unethical, what we have studied is why a Western country wanted capitalism, communism. They started when there was the humanism approach. Man is the measure of all things. If the capitalism is against the humanistic approach, if it is against humanism, then capitalism is questioned, communism is questioned, and this all things are questioned, and we should straight go for the Islamization.
Right, one more question. Yes, please.
Assalamu alaikum ji. My name is Shamir Khan. As we talked that war is a business, so do you think the recent military operations in is the way of getting funds?
Okay.
Dr.
Whosoever wants to respond. Dr. Aman.
Okay, so my answer, very fair answer, is that there are states that are being used by the United States as a proxy states. If we see in the Eastern Europe, it is Ukraine. In the Middle East, it is Jordan. And in East Asia, it is South Korea, Japan, and Philippines.
Okay.
So these are the states that are actively supporting US agenda, you may call it, but they are being used. Their politics is largely being controlled. So in Ukraine, there is Zelensky as a president, and his tenure is over. He does not have legitimate authority of the people, but still he is installed and he is in power. He is a decision maker, all in all.
One sentence to Dr. Aman, that we are classically US allied. After the creation of Pakistan, we were part of CETO and CENTO, then Commonwealth, and still our governments remain in collision with the in collaboration with the Americans in the war against terrorism in Afghanistan and all that. We are formally an ally of United States.
Right, one last question, please.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Muhammad Hassan and I'm from Bahria University. So, sir, my question is that why is Middle East the largest market for US weapons? And the other part to it is that the war on terror actually initiated by the US. Is it a staged campaign to actually involve Middle East to buy weapons from them and the ammunition to be used against the war?
Right.
Mufti Sahab.
Any one of you who wants to answer that? I think you partially touched on that subject earlier also, so please.
Okay, so the question is that why Middle Eastern countries are more interested. Again, you need to understand that what are the American objectives, foreign policy objectives. So with regard to this region, the Middle East, there are of course political objectives, strategic objectives, and economic objectives. Strategically, America, one of the major foreign policy objective of US foreign policy is that it wants to protect Israel. So in return, Israel supports American military presence in the region. And it is also about oil and the natural resources. So you see that there are American forces in Iraq, Saddam Hussein regime was toppled, and American forces are there in Syria. So a chaotic, unstable Middle East serves American foreign policy objectives. And of course, there is this element of containing political Islam also. So when we try to understand American invasion of Afghanistan, so there is this political objective, there was this political objective apart from containing Russia and China, that America does not want any political, Islamic political ideology to prevail.
Okay, on that note, I have to wind up this discussion. I've run out of time. Thank you very much, Dr. Amanullah Khan, Dr. Abid Abbasi and Mufti Saad Khan for joining us. That's all for tonight. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night and Allah Hafiz.